Hello, everybody, and welcome back to week number 2 of the Smite SPL Summer Split. My name's Taco, and today I'll be joined here by Anatoly on the desk.
Saturday today, European action. We saw Thursday some international days, but strictly European today.
And it should be a lot of fun because all of these teams, the big thing that they're really looking out for is trying to qualify for DreamHack Valencia over in Spain. That should be a whole lot of fun. Top 4 EU, top 3 NA, and of course, you've got your South American team trying to represent.
And it's a very tight race right now out of Europe. There's been a lot of splits previously in week number 1, even on Thursday's action.
And all these teams, of course, are looking to try and set themselves into the best place possible. And of course, you need to win some sets to get that going. And for EU, you can see already top of the leaderboard, we've got Enix leading the pack with 7 points, followed quickly by Team Dignitas.
But look who's right behind them. Energy and Obey Alliance, the last two defending teams in last year's World, sitting only at 2 points each.
But they've been taking splits for both of these teams, and so that should make everything so much more exciting today, because when you look at the schedule that we actually have going, we're going to be seeing Energy facing off against Elevate and Obey versus the Papis to start everything off. But both of these teams have fairly solid opportunities to try and find some 2-0s today, but you never really know what to expect because Elevate and the Papis, these are teams that can also, they're more than capable of taking a split.
Absolutely. Elevate has been known to be the split machines in the previous splits, but they lost to Team Dignitas earlier on this split. They split against the Papis, surprisingly enough, a team from the Challenger Circuit team. So the question is, can they bounce back against a team such as Energy?
But Elevate has also, they always have that surprise factor of being the split masters, like you mentioned, Toli. And I think it'll be a lot of fun because when it comes to the public perception, I feel as though people would expect a split to be more likely to occur in Energy versus Elevate than perhaps Obey versus the Papis. But either way, NRG, these guys are looking to close it out. They wanted some clean 2-0s in their sets today because it would just be so solid for them to have that 3 points to really boost them in the standings.
I'm not terribly surprised that Energy has been getting a few splits thus far in the beginning of the summer split, because the fact that this is a team that usually gets off to a slow start, and then towards the mid stages, towards the later portion of it, that's when they really start getting momentum and really getting some of these wins. And then whenever LAN happens, that's when the true potential out of Energy really shines.
But with only 5 weeks of competition, you can't really afford to keep going with a slow start. But NRG, I mean, these guys were world champions for a reason. They definitely still have it in them, in my opinion, to push through and persevere. And especially when you're looking at the duo lane, I think that there's been a lot of popping off recently when it comes to the aggression in the duo. And who better for aggressiveness than EmilZy and iRaffer?
Season 3 MVP EmilZy just making a statement every single time. The Hu-Yi bounces that this man has been performing in the SPL has just been quite a sight to see. And always, Raffer right behind him, trailing, looking for those plays. Just look at that bounce, man. Wow.
I mean, teams have been taking it upon themselves to ban Hu-Yi for a reason, and rightfully so. You let EmilZy have a hunter like Hu-Yi who control the team fights so well, and that's exactly what he's going to do every single time. He is just so potent on this god, and it's just absolutely incredible every time.
I wouldn't be surprised if Papis ban away the Hu-Yi from EmilZy.
Elevate, but it should be interesting either way because Elevate are going to have Jermaine and Dardes, and Jermaine and Dardes, they're another duo just like Raffer and EmilZy because they've been playing together for so long, and it's very similar when it comes to the aggressiveness, at least from Jermaine.
The Bruise brothers have been known to be aggressive ever since their days in the Myrmidons. This two players here have always been looking for these aggressive plays. Doesn't matter what gods they're necessarily playing. They usually like to go for this kind of early game aggression in the duo lane, and knowing Energy, they're probably going to be prepared for that.
And Jermaine is also a hunter player who's been regarded as a very strong one in EU. Although Elevate doesn't necessarily find the set wins, he's still a very strong member for his team. Alongside of Dardes, he tends to make him look good. Like 90% of the time, he's making him look good. The other 10%, he's making himself look good with his own plays.
With the claps and with the taunts as well. Dardes just loves to show off whenever he gets the opportunity.
It'll be really fun all around. I'm looking forward to seeing how these teams really match out and whether or not Energy is going to be able to close out against Elevate or vice versa. But of course, before we can get into set number 2 with Energy versus Elevate, we've got to see how it unfolds with Obey versus the Papis to start off our Saturday.
We're going to see a lot of action here. I'm specifically looking at the Hunter lane matchup first. We're going to have Warchi against Ataraxia, a player, Ataraxia, that's been making a lot of shifts and changes here in his previous splits. Known to be a more passive player before in the past, but now he's found his stride. Now he's making a lot of these confident plays, especially when it's most needed for him, trying to get into that world championship level.
Confidence and aggression will be really fun just because you kind of expect that same sort of aggression from Warchi. That's kind of what the Papis love to do. And Ataraxia, just the way that he's able to know when to engage as well as disengage, I think that his positioning it's good positioning on an ADC is so crucial when it comes to team fighting, and I just feel as though he will have his money set out for him when it comes to facing off against Warchi. He's a fan favorite, and for a good reason.
Absolutely. This is a new player here in the SPL. A lot of experience in the Challenger Circuit team. A great streamer as well. The question is going to remain is how can Ataraxia adapt to this new blood player here coming out of Warchi? Because there's not too much to really base off your knowledge off of. So the homework here for Obey Alliance against this Hunter needs to be on point.
There's a lot of excitement involved, really, because the Papis, if anything, they're always looking to progress themselves as a team. I think getting to play in this competitive environment is really going to give them that little bit of an edge as far as taking their competition to the next level. And so I'm really excited whether or not these guys are able to find the split or even a 2-0 for themselves. I mean, it's unlikely. The possibility is always there, of course, but it's just going to be really fun.
I agree. And besides the Hunter matchup, I'm also looking at the junglers here. CaptainTwig out of Obey Alliance has just been making crazy amounts of improvements here ever since, you know, his Fnatic days and others as well. This player here, I think maybe it's the addition of Hazer that just like kind of revitalized everybody in the right edge that they needed to be.
Obey definitely hold their coach Hazer to a very high standing, and for good reason. He's certainly helped them out as far as drafting and just team strategies are concerned, but I really just like how Twig has been able to orient his playstyle to that team base, and when you have a player that can focus on the team and all those aesthetics, I think that that's a really important aspect. And when you're facing off against an aggressive player such as Dheylo, I mean, that's always something to keep in mind.
Playing the Willish, playing the Ratatasker doesn't really matter. Made a huge statement in the relegations thus far, but having a really rough start in the split, losing to Enix to start things off, splitting against Elevate, Dheylo has been making some of these plays here, and I'm really excited to see what he has in store for us against Obey.
He's got a pretty crazy god pull. I mean, the fact that he's willing to break out the Ratatasker in a time when Rat isn't necessarily the most favored selection for the jungle, it just goes to show that he's willing to expand and flex out his god pull. And so the question is, how much deeper can it really go? And will Obey be able to compensate for kind of just a little bit of jank?
Well, it's going to have to be really deep here if Papis needs to get some points here to get to Valencia.
Who do you think is going to be taking it for game number 1 at least, Holy?
Smart Fantasy Points has Obey Alliance for this one. I got to have it to Obey.
I'd probably have to put my favoring into Obey as well, but either way, we'll get to see who's going to become victorious through this first set as we got the casters take you guys into the journey.
Thanks so much, Taco and Toli. Me and Agro are standing by to bring you the cast today of Obey versus Papis, as we're going to start off with. Papis coming into the league.
Yep.
Obey, top of the league.
Yes.
The big difference, I guess, is the fact that Papis aren't necessarily well known enough for the Obey to maybe do enough research and know their playstyle.
That is true on one hand, but this is a team that was on the cusp of breaking to the SPL so many times that they've practiced against SPL teams quite a bit from what I hear behind the scenes. So there is some familiarity there between the Papis and the rest of the European SPL, but like you mentioned, I mean, they might not have the best of game plans up against these guys. I mean, we've seen Warchi pull out things like Mercury ADC before, you know, these things that you don't really expect necessarily. I'm sorry, it was Susano ADC.
Yeah.
Assassins in the ADC role is basically the bottom line. So you know the Papis have something in their back pocket, but Obey usually do as well. So I'm excited to see how this matchup plays out.
Well, let's see what's in the back pockets. P's and B's, pretty please. You see that saw that from Tom, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. That was well timed.
It's not bad.
And Tom's been trying to do that for like the entire summer split.
And one time.
Nailed it.
Just the way it is. Susano nailed it for Obey, making sure Warchi can't play that in the Hunter role that we've seen him do before. And Ganesha, pretty much expected to be the standard ban, at least over in Europe. It's been pretty much banned every game.
I mean, NA prioritized it as well on Thursday. I suspect every single second pick team is going to be banning away the Ganesh because every team with that first pick is going to be looking for it, but that means you leave something open for Obey. And you just
Get
gave
EmilZy?
Fafnir.
That's what I mean. Give it
Yeah.
EmilZy Fafnir. Like, oh, that's risky for the Papis to do that, but does secure them Bellona for themselves. So
Sure.
Cyrus banned away. So Raven's the only thing they've left up unless they put it in the jungle.
There it is, the
There we
Papis
go.
right on top there. Surprised with the Naja ban, keeping that away from CaptainTwig. Yes, he's very strong on it, but Naja is one of those characters that you can kind of punish very early on if he falls behind. Could have been a good win condition there for the Papis, but instead they give up Fafnir, Vulcan, it looks like Sun Wukong for that solo lane.
Well, we saw on the desk earlier on a bit of Vulcan Wheelix play. We may see CaptainTwig go to that. Sounds like he's very...
Sure.
He's not showing it too much, but he's got it in his god pool if he needs to.
And Wukong has a knock-up in his kit, one of those solo laners that you want to pair with the Awilish that could really punish that solo lane.
I mean, see how this plays out then. I mean, obviously the Papis don't have many jumps so far, so it would have to be set up for the ultimate from the Gravity Surge to reposition.
Sure.
But Sol banned away, Nemesis banned away by the Papis, so they're still hitting the jungle picks over and over again. Papis recognize Twig is important.
Exactly, and Camazotz love that ban as well. Camazotz has been the priority pick in the jungle early on here during the summer portion of Season 4. Just seems to be one of those characters that a lot of players just seem to have in their god pool. Yes, he's a strong character, but it's not overwhelmingly in my mind. It's just that a lot of these players seem to just coincidentally love playing him.
Cernunnos locked in for the Papis, and how the mighty have fallen from considered being the top pick, top ban for a long period of time. Well, not a long period, but since release. The pros have started to work out now that he's pickable, and you don't have to ban him all the time.
No.
You can actually deal with him.
Still the first hunter off the board, but
Sure.
not that first pick position. Exactly, players realizing that you can punish this selection with things like Odin. Odin looking to lock down that Khepri and Cernunnos and just lock that Vulcan ultimate on top as well as the Hu Yi ult.
Very interesting to see the fact that both junglers are probably going to be warriors here, Odin and Ravana, what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
And the surprising thing about that is they're both very early game focused in what they're going to be able to bring. The damage output is high in the early stages, kind of drops off towards the end point. The benefit is ring for Odin.
Sure.
Raven's ultimate, which reduces damage, is very useful too.
And they both are going to be picking up Sunder, most likely, and that
Yeah,
kind of
sure.
augments your late game damage. Even if it isn't built into your kit in the late game, you can set up the rest of your team to be doing significant damage in the later stages.
But the bad news is that Odin's locked in. He's going to have a ring, but Scylla is the final pick for the Papis there, and she's going to be able to deal with those rings pretty well. One of the safest gods against Odin from the mage situation, especially with the Sentinel, and the fact she can escape the ring because of it.
No surprise to see the Scylla selection for Ojoboom. He's played it a couple times before, as well as you mentioned, it's probably the most safe selection against the Odin. But Twig can bait out that Sentinel pretty easily just by walking at Ojoboom, basically, and then either forcing him into the Sentinel dash away or guaranteeing a big chunk of damage instead.
But having a look at the start here, you can see Creed was looking for something Papis had run previously. We're trying to gank mid lane early on with first wave pressure. And there's a frenzy pop early on, looking for some damage coming out from Twig. I think that was more a distraction than anything to make sure that they all backed away. This time around, though, you saw EmilZy was hanging around for Obey on the left-hand side, just in case Creed tried to get fancy, and there was no pick potential this time around.
But EmilZy's going to go over and start up that red buff, allow Ataraxia to come in and clean it up for himself. Now Ataraxia is going to hit level 2 off of this first wave, but the Papis have already pushed it in. They're going to be able to invade that purple buff.
Bad news is, though, is that they've invaded the purple buff, and they were looking to take the red too, because they've got Hog online. Dracomarino has picked up Hog at the start of this game, something we've not seen too often, but we've seen a couple of supports starting to run it now and again.
A little bit of there in support, and then as well as Guardians in that solo
Yeah.
lane. We've seen FineOK pick it up on the Athena solo, comes to mind. But you're right, it's all about that jungle camp control in the early game. But this means that it's going to be another, everyone talks about how many Sunders each team has.
Sure.
It's another opportunity for no Sunder.
Just a little bit concerned that Dracomarino's still not used this Hog so far. You see that he's been trying to hold it for the right situation. This might be it. Warchi contesting against Ataraxia, buying enough time for Dracomarino to get the Hog off there. But they did lose a wave of experience in that left-hand side. They will probably catch the archers. How does that end up working out realistically?
I mean, they did get a little bit of poke on Ataraxia as well, and you can see Warchi a little bit ahead of Ataraxia with that Obey Hunter just now hitting level 3, and no death toll for him, but he does have this health chalice, so he's got 2 more health potions remaining, plenty of health sustain there. So it doesn't really end up too poorly. Dracomarino will have that purple buff a little bit longer now because he waited a little bit longer to secure it. So he's going to have that extra pen aura a little bit more extended.
But you can also see that EmilZy has started off with the Lono's Mask, one of the new starter items available for support, so you get stacks based off assists, which turns into bonus health and gold once those stacks are completed. And when you play someone like Fafnir, bonus gold, that's kind of what he brings anyway with his passive, and he gets even more of that now with Lono's Mask.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Fafnir definitely needs some more gold income. He always near the top of the net worth charts between his passive and that Watcher's Gift. But also keep in mind that whenever you hit that 75 stack mark and you get that burst of gold, if EmilZy's in trouble in that instance, he could be getting a big burst of protections during that time as well, and allow him to tank up a little bit more, take a fight that's advantageous for you because you're a little bit tankier than everyone else is expecting. Really synergizes well with what Fafnir wants to do.
Because I believe it gives you 400 gold on completion, is that correct?
That's
and
it,
then you
yes.
can sell it for 333, which means you can get like a tier 1 of sovereignty if you need it, or even tier 2. Dheylo up against CaptainTwig. Twig's going to be a little bit careful here with Creed rotating around and Ojoboom just sat in the wings waiting patiently. I know she called him Oyo. Wait, how do you call him?
Ojoboom.
I like Ojo.
You like Ojo?
I don't know why. I don't.
You like the mojo?
It's probably not the right way to say it because the Spanish names I'm not the greatest at. But Ojoboom sounds so much better when you get aggressive and excited about it. Than
See,
Ojoboom.
we can't get away with saying, yeah, we're just not that good at Spanish names, but you can't because of the accent. Another
Yeah,
one of
I
those
guess that's what it
instances.
is. I'm sorry. I can't help it, you know? Like, just born and bred that way.
Yeah.
It's the bonuses of life. maniaKK on the right-hand side, though, you can see Creed did trade out nicely with him there. Bellona being a lane bully in the early stages. Eagles rally down, so is the Cloud for maniaKK. So clearly you can tell what happened in this lane, but the good news is maniaKK's already back after the teleportation.
The teleport's ready to go, but I really think this favors Obey because now Creed is very susceptible to a gank from CaptainTwig. Needs that Eagles rally to get out of the Odin cage, and even if it's just a couple minions hitting Creed along with maniaKK and CaptainTwig, that could be an easy first blood opportunity for Obey.
Well, he's gone for the Ninja Tabby build on the Bellona now. As we look at the left-hand side, you can see the red buff secured by Obey. The purple contested, but the hog comes into play again. Dracomarino will walk back towards the lane now after stealing that one away too.
maniaKK has the pressure for the moment, but here comes CaptainTwig, the
called
stun into the bird bomb, waiting for the cage.
You called it, and Creed is dead. The frenzy was popped soon after. You expected a Sunder coming into this game. It's not Sunder, though. It's gone with the frenzy, so he's going to augment the damage of his team based off the ring. I think that's a really good call for CaptainTwig.
I really like it, as well as increasing that attack speed for CaptainTwig inside the ring, which can be very impactful, especially in that early to mid stages. As soon as Odin finishes off his Warrior Tabi, though knowing Twig will probably go for some weird boot option that isn't going to be Warrior Tabi, but that can those auto attacks can really hurt. That last hit of your attack chain, very, very impactful whenever someone's locked in that cage. And so it's getting a little bit more auto attack damage, as well as just outright damage from everyone around the cage.
Nice little work from Twig there on those elementals. He had an idea with the ward placement that Dheylo was rotating around to try and contest them, but his decision making was very solid there. Just pulling it away further around the corner makes it more tricky for Dheylo to look for a cheeky steal.
And that's what you expect from a veteran jungler like CaptainTwig. Spent a little bit of time in the mid lane previously, but now has really come into his own in the jungle during Season 4. Towards the end of Season 3 as well, he started to look a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I think a lot of that was he ended up in the jungle after being mid for so long, and he never really found footing for a long time until he found a team that could work with his jungle style, because your playstyle from mid to jungle, it varies. I mean, if you're a mid laner, you're not necessarily going to play as passive or as aggressive as you were when you play the jungle role.
Very different roles. You work together a lot, but you do completely different things a lot of the times, especially when it comes to late game team fights. A lot of mid laners can make it a fairly easy transition into the jungle during the early game because you're with your mid laner and you understand what you want your jungler to be doing in that scenario. But how you team fight as an assassin, or in this case as a damage-oriented warrior for CaptainTwig, is going to be completely different.
Left-hand side, bit of pressure onto Warchi here. The beads are already down, and with Ataraxia just waiting in the wings to leap in and close the gap. Picks up the kill. His leap is down, though, and Dheylo wants to try and punish that. And he goes with the ultimate, going to get some nice damage off. Beads burn on Ataraxia. No minions to help him out as the overhead kick will secure. Nice rotation from Dheylo. Obey a little bit too far forward. Got punished for it there.
Ataraxia wants to play a little bit more aggressive in this matchup. Hou-Yi definitely had a strong one up against that Cernunnos in the mid lane. Ojoboom's trying to get away, but you can't get away from that PrettyPriMe ultimate.
Nothing worse than having to deal with Vulcan, played by PrettyPriMe, and then you've got CaptainTwig ringing them in too. Great play from Obey, though, to force him to use the Sentinel beforehand.
But Ojoboom was up in his ultimate, but had the Aegis amulet, but you can't use that whenever you're an I'm a Monster. So I think trying to get that increased movement speed really hurt him there. Could have maybe canceled that into the Aegis quickly, but a lot harder ask than just waiting to use your Aegis.
Well, 3-1 right now. Elementals contested another time. Dheylo and Dracomarino winning the battle so far so good. They will get all three of them. And with Creed coming in, maniaKK may have overstayed his welcome. Bird form tries to get to Cloud, but too little, too late. And iCreed gets his first kill of the game.
So this is something that happens for top-end teams that are playing teams that they don't expect to be at their level. Does Obey take that fight, that little engagement by the Fire Elementals against Energy?
No.
Almost certainly not.
Not after the Elementals have gone down. You don't continue trying to trade out. You just back away. Against three members as well, and you kind of knew there was three members there. pretty obvious if it's going to be 3. You take a trade and you get punished for it.
Exactly. So Obey needs to spend a little bit more respect against the Papis and make sure that they're respecting how much damage output they have, because even though, as we mentioned, this is a team that's just now breaking into the SPL for the first time, this is a team that's been together for quite some time. They have a lot of experience together. Their synergy is pretty solid, and they've been playing against teams of around Obey's caliber in practice for quite some time. So you need to be ready for them to give you a strong game.
And I will say, like, over the years of casting the SPL now, from a relegation team that's moved into the Pro League, Papis have done above average for most of the teams coming in so far. I know we've not seen that many games out of them, but they're looking more consistent and solid than what we've seen out of previous teams that have come up from the Challenger circuit.
EmilZy taking a lot of damage there. Still has his transformation, but being very patient with it. Warchi goes into the cage. Dash is already down. Nowhere for him to go, but Ojoboom finds the reset, and Warchi got saved by Draco.
But Ojoboom still trying to chase down. Look at Diamond Monster. Will hit 2. Not enough damage to pick anybody up, though. PrettyPriMe on low health, but Twig wants to go in again against 4. The Madman from the jungle. Luckily enough, Dheylo was there to make sure that Twig changed his mind, but he was waiting for maniaKK to come around the corner. And maniaKK's still coming around, but Ataraxia's rotation, he's in trouble too. Papis are winning.
He's in a lot of trouble. No jump, nowhere for him to go. Rooted in place, and Warchi's going to get credit. maniaKK still here with PrettyPriMe. Dheylo, did he miss that magic cudgel?
Cudgel, he was just off the mark, but he's still going to give chase. Great route from Draco, though, to make sure Dheylo gets out, and Warchi credit with a kill. Gold Fury's exposed. I think they could have still looked for the Gold Fury here, you know, but I think they're going to play it safe.
With how low Dheylo and Warchi both were, I like the call to back up in that scenario.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of. I think they should have gone for it there, because even if they lose those 2 low health members, they won the fight beforehand and they get the Gold Fury. I don't see the likes of Twig and EmilZy being able to steal it away unless something crazy happens with no ultimates, you know?
And that's just one of those risk versus rewards.
Sure,
where
it's something to look back on.
Exactly. Maybe the Papis could have gone for it, but for now, I have no problem with them giving up the goose in that scenario. They definitely got the better end of that team fight, where maniaKK plays a little bit too aggressive, and it was CaptainTwig who hadn't backed in so long, was sitting on very low mana, comes into the rotation, but I don't even know if he had enough mana to continue to use skills after he had jumped in. Can't even find the slow with the Gugnir's Might. Good option for the Papis to take that fight, and it all goes right because of the great play out of Draco to save Warchi and Ojoboom finding that ultimate.
If anything, it was Draco who saved multiple people, because he saved with the ultimate onto Warchi, and then also the route to get Dheylo out of trouble on the escape route kept his whole team alive there. And supports sometimes go unnoticed, especially Khepri, who most of the time sit in the back line and make sure they've all got protections and some dots on the enemy team.
Exactly. That Rising Dawn is kind of difficult to understand how much work it can do in the middle of a team fight, but in terms of giving your team damage reduction, it is incredibly powerful.
Sneaky trap being set up by the Papis, and Prime could be the casualty for this. Backfires away from the damage, but Dheylo's not giving up. The ring from Twig will allow Prime to escape. As Twig goes in again, Prime's setting up for the ultimate. He's looking for the right opportunity. Warchi's ult. The ult is on point. Ojo's out of the way. Dheylo is not, though, and Dheylo is going to fall down.
EmilZy's going to get credit for that. Ataraxia jumps right on top of the Gold Fury to start it up as Twig continues the chase. That damage reduction from Draco is the only reason Warchi's alive right now.
And now maniaKK still trading against Creed and Ojoboom. PrettyPriMe now in a better position than he was earlier on. Forced out because of the focus on him at the start of that fight, but there's great work from Obey's front line, in particular Twig, to keep him alive.
Twig still going in that front line. Stun onto Creed to interrupt the bludgeon. Knockup's good as well. He does have that Eagles Rally available, but is just going to walk away instead. Obey get the red buff on top of those kills.
But the problem is that Creed's at half health now. Ojoboom's lower on mana, doesn't have his ultimate available. Surprised Obey were happy enough to reset there too. But they did win the red buff on the left-hand side. They stole that away, and that's one thing Papis didn't get after the last fight, was any sort of invades that got them some sort of lead or even at the goal, because still Obey are in charge.
1 for 0 there, but Obey, as you mentioned, get that red buff invade. Looks like Ataraxia is going to get a red buff for himself on his own side of the map. But again, Dracomarino saves the life twice of Warchi there. Warchi again locked in that cage, trusts his support to find the Scarab's Blessing, keep him up. But then that Rising Dawn right before Twig landed with the Bird Bomb saves Warchi's life a second time. Dracomarino proving that he doesn't need one of those defensive teamfight relics like the Shell, the Sprint, or even something aggressive like the Frenzy or Sunder. Doesn't need any of those things because he just has to use his base kit and then use that hog to secure some farm for the rest of his team.
It's definitely one of those things. Next to Dracomarino's name now, you can put down Khepri and put a little tick next to it of like, yes, he can play Khepri. Most people can, but it's at this level of play is a different story. You know,
It's
there's a
been
big
very
difference.
impressive because not only does he have to worry about saving everyone who's in the cage, but he also cannot be in that cage with them. The positioning has been good, but also not bad to the point where he's not absorbing skills in the front line. That's what you want to do as Khepri, is step up, take that first rotation of skills, get around half HP, then you back up and allow your teammates to be the ones to push forward, and you try and save them.
So 12.5 minutes in now, no Gold Fury is down just yet, but plenty of contest around them, especially the Oracles. The difference is, though, is we've just gone past 10 minutes aggro, and the Portal Demon is now available too, which means the fights could become a little bit more sporadic, and people out of position could get punished heavier.
And especially with something like a Vulcan on your team, Sun Wukong can do pretty solid damage to a Portal Demon as well. It's only going to take 2 members, PrettyPriMe being one of the most likely, for Obey to sneak away something like the Portal Demon, and then the other 3 can kind of juggle the Papis around on that Gold Fury and prevent them from getting that objective. So the Papis need to be very careful about where PrettyPriMe is on the map at all times, because Vulcan is excellent at sneaking objectives away from you.
I'm just keeping an eye on relics, because the secondary relics are coming through now, and the question on my lips is, will the Papis go for a Phantom here to try and deny the ring that Twig's getting out, or will they rather go for, you know, Aegises and survivability?
I think I'd prefer some Aegises. I mean, maybe out of Dracomarino we could see a Phantom. I don't think I'd mind it in that slot, but then the Papis are down asunder in terms of their late game damage output, which could end up hurting them, but either way, I think that they don't really need it thus far. The problem is you kind of get lulled into this false sense of security where, yeah, the cages haven't been too impactful. They've gotten 1 kill in mid, but I've saved Warchi a couple times. Maybe we don't need that Phantom. And then Twig's going to find a huge one, and everyone's going to be saying, man, I wish we had a Phantom right now.
I guess the question is, he could go for Shell, I guess, on Dracomarino instead. The Shell reduce the damage that PrettyPrime's going to pull out with the burst, as well as Ataraxia, because once that ring goes down, there's plenty of rings that are going to come on top of that ring.
Exactly. There's plenty of circles to lay on top there, basically. And that wouldn't be a bad option, but at the same time, you could just pick Phantom and not be in that circle whenever all those ultimates come crashing down. Plus, that Phantom gives you that crowd control reduction. That's very, very important, not only for getting you out of the cage, but it means that the stuns from EmilZy and maniaKK aren't going to last as long. The slows won't be as impactful. There's plenty that Phantom brings to the table outside of just getting you out of that Odin ultimate.
So we've got 2 different builds coming off the mid lane mages right now. And is this because the gods specifically here, Aggro? Because you can see, you know, Ojoboom, he's gone for the helm for defensive options, worried about the amount of physical, and then investing what looks like will be Spear of Desolation next for the extra penetration and damage output. Whereas Prime's gone for the lifesteal option with Bancrofts into a different version of penetration.
This is exactly what you were saying, where it's Ojoboom's a little bit more worried about the bird bomb damage coming out of CaptainTwig, and rightfully so. That's a ton of burst damage that, even at level 13, it's enough to force you out of a fight, basically. It's going to do about 60% of your health, and that's quite a bit that it's difficult to fight after that. So I like this pickup from Ojoboom. PrettyPriMe known to be a little bit more greedy, a little bit more aggressive with his build path, not going for the Doom Orb that we usually see out of him, but the next best option, which is that Bancroft's Talon. But Dheylo's going to be able to stick on him and do a ton of damage to this Vulcan. That lifesteal's not going to really matter when you're getting 100 to 0'd by Dheylo.
Well, you talked about Dheylo there. He did get his own speed buff, but it's Dracomarino that gets in trouble, and Phantom was picked up by him. Immediately, he'll escape away, and there's a nice little animation to show when people have Phantom on him now. Makes it a lot clearer for enemies and your teammates, too.
That's a tough position for Draco to have to use that Phantom, though. He was lone in the cage, only him. If Obey gets that pick, then I think Papis may still have been able to fight into a Gold Fury pull or a Portal Demon pull.
Good point.
I think I would have liked to see a little bit more patience from Draco in that scenario. But, I mean, anytime you get cage and you have Phantom up, your obvious reaction is to just use that relic. But that is a very, very long cooldown. Now, on the other hand, Obey did have to use the blink from CaptainTwig in order to close that distance. So there is a less of a gap in terms of the offensive opportunity for this cage, but it's still there with that Phantom being
Drake
down.
on the left-hand side now. EmilZy's looking for the hammer. Nice little backstep from Draco. Setting up Warchi to get some poke off. Bad news is his Twig's on the way, looking to try and close the gap, and immediately Warchi will back away alongside Draco.
Odin definitely going to be a little bit stronger in the mid to late stages after that recent buff to that Gungnir's Might. Just a little bit more damage, a little bit more potent on the slow as well, so that's why you see Twig immediately leveling up that 3. Previously, you had a choice between the 3 because it was so unimpactful, basically, and that Odin ultimate. By putting points into that cage, you're reducing the enemy attack speed whenever they're locked in there. excellent up against Creed, Dheylo, and Warchi. And I think previously we may have seen Twig start to level that ultimate, but with that recent buff to Gungnir's Might, I think that's going to keep Odin's damage a little bit more relevant longer.
And CaptainTwig as well, he's gone for the shield build so far. We saw Gladiator Shield earlier on. I believe he's investing potentially Void Shield next on the list. So Shifters is going to be the option for him too. And these are kind of the items you're looking to play, I guess, with an Odin style of warrior, where you need the defenses, but you would like some damage to try and increase things in the early game.
I like this Shifter Shield pickup a lot. The Gladiator Shield is just cheap CDR power, and the sustain from it is there. It's not the most impactful thing, but you can definitely feel it a little bit. Shifter Shield is the perfect Odin item where I want to Bird Bomb in, do a ton of damage with my 1-2 combination, and then I just want to live until my next shield comes up whenever everyone invests everything into me.
Blink from Twig, and there's a ring. Draco stuck inside this time. No Phantom to escape this time round, Hugbug. Bad news is he's had to ult himself as well. Wild Hunt on from Warchi to buy Draco a window out, but Prime will clean up the killers. Twig Bird Bombs in one more time. Dheylo, though, poking him down with the help of Ojoboom, who resets towards the mid lane. Now the collapse from Obeys towards Warchi, but the Papis realize they've not got a chance just yet until Creed goes in.
Creed looking for PrettyPriMe, but the Aegis is going to prevent him from too much damage. Dheylo around the back, but a big ultimate out of Prime. It's going to do a lot of damage.
Got avoided by most. It got a lot of Aegis off for damage, but Dheylo's still in trouble on the backside now, trying to cause a distraction. The bad news is, same thing is happening from maniaKK on the Papis, and the Papis left Dheylo alone. He gets picked when there was a chance for a collapse, and in the end it's solo versus solo, and it was the Papis that came out on the wrong end as the Gold Fury is being looked at now.
EmilZy's so healthy that he's going to be the one to zone. maniaKK steps forward as well, and Obey is going to secure themselves the first Gold Fury of the game.
And you look at the gold lead now, he's just approaching 5,000 roughly between the two. 4,000 experience just under for Obey as well. And this is kind of a slow progress from Obey. Papis are making this tricky.
They are. They're being where they're supposed to be. It's been Obey getting the majority of the contestable objectives. That's why they have this lead right now. But the Papis have been there every time they need to be, not making it easy on them.
Still, the Portal Demon aggroed by Papis still continues to fight down. I'm a monster propped him down, but the Portal does go the way of the Papis, but it was a lot invested for that. Dheylo comes through the Portal, and Twig and maniaKK running for their lives, get out of danger scot-free.
A little bit late on that I'm a monster from Ojoboom, but it doesn't end up mattering too much as the Papis secure it anyways, so getting a little bit of gold in their favor, but this does leave Ataraxia alone on that left-hand side. Excellent recognition by the veteran hunter to recognize that everyone from the Papis is there on that right getting the Portal Demon. So even though he's low on mana, hasn't back since the Gold Fury, there's no one there to contest him. He's going to get 500 gold for his team for free.
And when you think about the Portal Demon, pretty much being a tier 1 tower is how you should look at it now. It's basically the same thing. So it evens things out with losing the Portal Demon, other than the map pressure around the Fire Giant for a few seconds with that Portal.
But teams that are behind don't really get as much of a benefit from that Portal as teams that are ahead. So the Papis not really going to get too much out of that. maniaKK going to hit confirm the enemy blue buff with the Jingu Bang this time around.
I swear, whenever I see some Wukongs who turn into bird form after stealing things, I actually think they do it just because they like the noise of the bird screaming, and it's like a weird laugh. That's what it kind of comes across to me. Ha ha! As he flies away. See? Sounds just like that.
I guess
that's
your
I'm sorry. It's the only
you like to BM other people. That's your thing. Bird is just the fastest way to escape.
I've never BM'd anyone. It's not me. That's rude. Dheylo gonna get hit by the hammer, and Twig was really worried about being aggressed on this, so actually dropped the ring down too. Surprisingly enough, it isn't a low cooldown. Prime though is in a bit of trouble. No escape this time round, Sunshine. Full burst damage, and Dheylo was iCreed will pick up the kill with a bludgeon. Ojoboom did great work there now, and Twig's in trouble. No ring for him. Can he get away? Ataraxia will pick up Dracomarino, who's busy on the front lines. Twig gets to his tower, and Dheylo can't do it on his own.
Trying to get away now, and Ataraxia is forced out. Now it's EmilZy and maniaKK on that front side, continuing to try and push the Papis back, and they do so successfully, 1 for 1, but great execution onto PrettyPriMe there. The Sunder comes out from Creed, no real setup for that I'm a monster, but Ojoboom hits everything, knocks down PrettyPriMe.
Good work from Papis though to realize with a man advantage and the low health bars of Obey, they could get the tier 1 tower in the mid lane. Answer back to that, but Twig's back in the fight again because EmilZy and Ataraxia have shown up, and Papis may have just stood around for a little bit more poke than they needed to. Instead, they could all end up dying because of this.
Ojoboom, no Sentinel, has both his relics available. That Ricochet just gonna miss from Ataraxia as Twig comes up and over the wall.
Dheylo's doing work though. Dheylo kept him alive. What great great play from Dheylo, and Draco's waiting around the corner in case they go in for this with the ultimate. Draco to the rescue. Ojoboom lives, and this is why the Papis are showing me that as a relegation team that's just come up, they have a lot of skill.
Very much.
lot of skill, because they are saving each other at moments where you're like, they should be dead.
And again, that comes back to how long this team has played together, you know, sticking together throughout the relegation process for the most part. This team has excellent communication as well. You see Dracomarino coming up that mid lane, and it's Dheylo juking around at 1 HP. Instead of going the most direct path away from Obey, instead cuts back into those back harpies because Draco's saying, get to the wall, I can ult you. Great play there out of the Papis, but for as much talent as they clearly have, and as much as they can clearly play with the likes of the European SPL, they've also still got a lot to learn because that tier 1 siege, as soon as the Papis got that tower, if they backed up, probably would have been okay.
Yeah.
Everyone, Warchi in particular, takes a couple steps too far forward, and then that means that Obey is able to answer back with 2 kills of their own.
And that's the difference between the Pro League and the Championships. It's just
Yes.
small mistakes. Small little mistakes will get punished so much more by experienced teams who've been around a long time, like the Obey roster in the pro scene.
And that can be demoralizing, where it's like, man, you know, just one little mistake and all of a sudden everything we worked hard for is gone. But at the same time, I think it should be encouraging for a lot of these teams because it's saying, hey, we just have a couple things to clean up and we can get to the point where we can take games off these guys.
It will be for the Papis because Papis have got such a good backing of fans behind them that want to see them succeed, that recognize their ability, that they should see this as positives. But they're not out of this game just yet. We may be talking a bit too far forward, but there's a ring, and the Phantom in response immediately gets Papis out of danger. maniaKK used the Cloud very early on, they're worried, and he will initiate for a second under the tower. With the minions coming in through, they're going to be able to get the tier 1, but I don't think Ataraxia wants to go in for the last couple of autos.
Not quite yet, but after this minion wave, maybe EmilZy going to be the first one and take a good chunk of damage there from the crush out of Ojoboom. Has that Spear of Desolation completed, as you were mentioning, and now working towards an Obsidian Shard for a little bit more power, that percent pen that's so important.
And that's the one thing that Papis did a good job of defending. Even though it's a tier 1 tower, it's not all doom and gloom for it. It's only 1 hit from death, but just keeping that for an extra while longer is denying Obey getting more gold into their coffers. Gold Fury looked at by Papis here. Ultimate's available for them. 2 down for Obey. As Creed goes to the backside for Prime. Beads down and Ataraxia defending. Creed does great work on the backside there to keep them all busy, keep the damage dealers out, but the front line of Obey is still strong.
Obey with a good, Ataraxia with a good Aegis there. Dheylo very low. Ataraxia's going to find him. Draco had already used his Scarab's Blessing to save Creed earlier on.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Draco saved it, went for Creed with the ultimate, which means that Dheylo was just in too deep on his own. And now EmilZy dives in on Draco. The Meatball Mariana comes out too. Ring is down again. That's how often it's going to be coming up. EmilZy's still in trouble here at the moment, but he will be able to just rotate around the Gold Fury and back out as another member of the Papis fall.
Great juke there out of EmilZy. If Ojoboom finds the reset and then I'm a monster, could be the Papis fight, but EmilZy just able to juke it out. Now going to have to back to base though, despite having that jump available, still too low to continue the fight.
Do you like the teleport in from maniaKK there? Straight away, back to base, get full health, come back and make sure that the Papis don't go for anything cheeky, like trying to pick off a low health member back in, but yeah, a lot of poke from Ojoboom for free there, and he's still continuing to eat poke from these minions, and now Warchi's here. maniaKK's going to be careful. He's going to have to go back to base probably soon again.
Again, a little bit of lack of respect there for the damage of Ojoboom. maniaKK doesn't have any sustain in that kit outside of the ultimate, and as you mentioned, with the teleport being down, it's not a great use of that relic, though it does potentially keep the Papis off of that Gold Fury. Certainly a necessary one there, but as you mentioned, walking into the mid lane in front of an entire wave and Ojoboom there, that probably not so necessary.
So only 3 towers down so far in this game. 1 on the left-hand side, 1 on the right-hand side, and 1 in the middle. Bit of a mixture of who's got what so far. But there's been a lot of fighting around this Gold Fury all day between these teams.
But only 1 has gone down so far. That was Obey's, and that's been the real difference maker in terms of this gold lead. Yes, Obey would have a gold lead regardless, but that's the big reason why they have such a significant one.
And just keeping on the experience levels of people as well, because that still matters right now. You can see a couple of members of Obey approaching 20, just ahead of the Papis right now, as they do look towards the Gold Fury here, down at half health. Turret doing most of the work for it, he keeps getting reset. Creed being focused on for a second, Twig against Ojoboom, and Ojoboom standing very tall there on that Scylla. Didn't want to give up his position as Twig now rings and tries to go aggressive.
Warchi has the Aegis though, but a big meatball backfire combination. Draco saves finds his Hunter once more, but Dheylo found Ataraxia.
I'm a monster doesn't hit because the backfire from Prime. He did the fadeaway right. We know what was going on. Got away from the damage, and Ojoboom's going to back out. That could have been a secondary kill there. But my, oh my, Prime's meatball backfire with that Rod and Tahuti. Warchi disappeared.
The backline focus from Papis has been great thus far. Everyone is pressuring either PrettyPriMe or Ataraxia, but it's never both at the same time. A clear target focus from the Papis is keeping them in this game.
And I think that's what they need to. They're using Creed and Dheylo very, very well to do that because they're juggling the aggro. One goes in, commits, forces some beads, forces some ultimates. The other one goes in, commits, tries to get more beads, tries to get more ultimates. It's working out for the Papis.
The old bait and switch.
Is that really what it is? The old bait and switch?
The old bait and switch. Yeah, I mean, every game has it. You know, you're in a shooting game and you pop out, you shoot, and then your teammate comes out because they think you're hurt and they're challenging you. Always a good play here out of the Papis. Look, all of Obey's the Portal Demon. The Papis just got the Gold Fury.
Gold Fury for Warchi. Creed's going to sit here on the side looking for a steal. Not going to find it, though. It's not all doom and gloom, that, because the Gold Fury is still worth more than the Portal Demon, but it gives positional advantage for Obey around the Fire Giant.
But at this stage of the game, I think I'd rather have the Gold Fury there if I'm the Papis.
If I'm Papis,
as I mentioned,
I agree.
You're not going to get as much mileage out of that actual portal that the Portal Demon gives you. And the Papis just want something to close that gold gap that Obey is kind of start to pull away from. Now it's below that 5,000 gold mark. 4,700 at 28 minutes really isn't anything insignificant.
No.
This game is very, very even.
And I like the fact that iCreed on that right-hand side, when he was watching the Portal Demon, he didn't go overly aggressive. We've seen so many solos that's like, I will try man mode and steal this, and then end up dying because of it, which turns the game even more. The fact that Papis were like, you know what, we'll go for a cheeky poke and strip it away, but if we don't get it, we still get the Gold Fury anyway, and we're still in this game.
Very calm and collected. The Papis definitely, even despite falling behind a little bit early, have kept their composure thus far, and that's one of the things, especially when you're going up against a team that really dominated the entire SPL during the spring portion of the Season 4. You expect a team like the Papis to come in and maybe play a little bit scared, but they have done anything but that. 11-7, they're right there with Obey.
But now the pressure gets a little bit further ahead now in favor of Obey, because right when we start sieging up around this Fire Giant aggro, the cost of losing the fight becomes much more severe, and that's why the Papis going to have to play even better than they have been so far, because Twig's going to go in, get a nice blink off, no ring just yet, trying to force out some abilities, and he gets just that. The Sentinel down means Ojo is trapped, and he needs help.
But he's all alone. It's only Twig here, and I'm a monster is going to find him. EmilZy does knock down Ojoboom, but it's already a 1-for-1.
Right-hand side, though, Creed versus Ataraxia, and Ataraxia's winning the trade, too. Prime with the backfire will clean that up for sure, because he's never going to miss from that distance. maniaKK still contesting against 3 on the other side, however. Warchi's still in this. No ultimate available for Dracomarino or Dheylo, and EmilZy has to fall back as maniaKK's clone still doing work, and maniaKK is still going in.
Dodges out that wild hunt, but a perfect abduct from Dracomarino gets Warchi the autos, and maniaKK's gonna fall.
However, Ataraxia, after getting the kill alongside Prime, did get the tier 2 tower, so even though maniaKK was a little bit too gung-ho for my liking, it created enough room for Ataraxia to get that tower.
See, the last 2 times I agreed with you. maniaKK was a little bit too far forward. In that situation, maniaKK is killing himself to guarantee the tier 2 for Ataraxia. That was calculated aggression in that scenario, and it ends up working out.
Ataraxia hasn't backed just yet, and Dheylo was forced to use his Brace of Undoing to heal back up. But 2 backfires later, and you're already dead again. Prime is, he's just, it's like he's got a shotgun on that backfire because it's always going to hit.
Every time. The accuracy, the positioning, I could talk about PrettyPriMe all day.
His timing of the abilities as well. Like hitting the meatball and the backfire at the same time is so difficult to do, and it makes people panic about, hang on, did he just do all that damage with backfire? No, he hit you with a meatball too, but you just didn't realize it because it came at the same time.
But Dheylo there, it makes the first obvious mistake that the Papis have made all day so far today. Actually, that's not true. They pushed a little bit
Chasing
too far
kills.
after the tier 1 tower, but chases Ataraxia there, and this is the window you were talking about. Now Obey heavily punishing the Papis, going for the fire.
Creed around the back, and you can see the Ojoboom focus coming out from maniaKK and Twig, because they know he's got the I'm a Monster primed and ready. Creed, though, eating a lot more damage from the 2 carries than he would like to. Warchi was setting a trap up, but now the trap has been turned, because multiple areas of the map, Papis are in trouble. Draco's 1 hit from death. They're just going to cancel that one out. As on the left-hand side, you can see that Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe and EmilZy running down Warchi, who's trying to buy as much time as he can, but it's all gone Pete Tong.
Now Ojoboom's got to handle 2. The frenzy pop. Twig takes a lot of damage, though. The Aegis is going to save it for the moment. Ojoboom does find Twig, so Obey does lose 1 member. But now it's only Dheylo left alive. Everyone from Obey healthy enough
Here we go.
to start up this fire.
Can Dheylo get in there and contest a fire giant is the question. And it doesn't look like that's going to be given an answer even quicker because he's going to go straight back to base buy. He was on full health and mana, but I understand just giving it up when you're on your own.
That time around was the right play, to give that one up. Just like Creed gave up that portal demon, sometimes you just got to give it up. In that scenario, again, it just comes back to Dheylo being a little bit too aggressive by the enemy blue buff. If Obey doesn't find that pick, I don't know if they can take that fight as easily as they did.
Well, you saw those team fight recaps at the bottom then. You saw the amount of golden experience that Obey came out ahead because of that. But it was the damage output from those two teams. 11,500 from Obey versus the 9,500 from Papis. Shows Papis are doing well in the team fights, but they're not finding the kills they want to.
And again, where was the majority of that damage? It was on to CaptainTwig and maniaKK, the two frontline characters.
And they both died, rightfully so, but it took them so long to bring those two down.
Exactly. It's so difficult whenever maniaKK is in front of you. Yes, he's got 3 deaths, but look at how much HP he has in that build between the Midgardian, the Rune Forged, and that Bulwark of Hope. Also plenty of protections from all those items, as well as that Gladiator's shield, and the Spirit's Robe on top of that. So it's very difficult to knock down maniaKK. Has done a good job in the later stages of doing his job in that front line, keeping the Papis out, and making sure that only 1 or 2 members from the Papis are in the face of PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia.
He left a minion up. maniaKK left a minion up at the blue buff.
Well, hopefully he doesn't want that blue buff whenever he thinks it's going to respawn.
Do you know how terrible of a play that is? Wow. Goodness me, maniaKK. That is game-changing. There is people watching this right now so salty and upset that you left that minion alive. How dare you?
Okay.
I can't believe he did that. So I just wanted to go on a rant about...
No, that's fine.
It felt good.
I was going to let you go. You know,
I was.
Everything's good now?
I'll forgive him, though. It's okay. I'm a forgiving kind of caster.
That's very kind of you.
I am.
No BM from you, ever, though.
Ever?
No, that would be...
Just tell the truth. That's all I ever do. At least the truth from my eyes, which means it's never lies. Left-hand side, though, Papis are trying to do a bit of split pushing here. Ojoboom, you can see Dracomarino both here. They're looking to try and get a little bit more farm so you can get Ojoboom, that Rudder Tahuti, and also level 20, which is another power spike yet again for Scylla.
But again, blink in from Twig. Warchi already so low, but Draco has the Phantom and the ultimate. That's 2 important cooldowns used. Papis already used that Bellona ultimate as well.
Surprised by how early maniaKK keeps using that Sun Cloud to just get free damage off because it's so tanky, that clone onto the Phoenix, I should say. Phoenix has fallen down now. Warchi root in place, hits it by Jingo Bang 2. The Sun's off the mark, the Bird Bomb 2. Warchi survives unless Prime says no!
Double kill for Prime in the fountain!
That's tough. Brutal. Brutal end to the game where Papis have put on such a good fight. Obey, take game 1.
And that time around, it was just the Warchi being a little bit too far forward there in 2 different sections. CaptainTwig can blink in, find the cage, force Warchi back, and the rest of the Papis because of it. And then as soon as Warchi heals up, right back into that front line, gets stunned up by EmilZy, knocked up. That kind of sets all the dominoes in place. The Papis almost did it. I think they really impressed Obey, I'm sure. It kind of surprised them. A lot of the viewers at home as well. Just a couple of those small things you got to clean up if you want to take games against Obey.
Well, let's go to